Psychics love coming to the show as well. Skeptics love it because of the message that I'm giving out there.
Yep.
So, like I said, it's a little something for everybody.
But in the meantime, what did you do, for instance, with this Chris Angel kid?
So with Chris Angel, when he started his very first TV show, I've done a Buried Alive where I'm buried 6 feet under the ground, chained, handcuffed, and I've got to dig my way to the surface. And he wanted to do a Buried Alive, and so he spoke to me about that. A bullet catch, Penn and Teller's bullet catch. They closed every show with that. I created that. I used to perform it myself. He wanted to do a bullet catch as well. So he brought me out to speak with him, and then he started realizing that I create magic. One of the things that I'm really good at is I solve problems when it comes to magic and things like that. So if somebody says to me, this is what I want to do, I can come up with a bunch of different ways that are very convincing, that are very magical looking, that you can do it. So as a result, we would sit in a room every season, and we would spend 2 weeks, and we would have to come up with 350 tricks, which is a lot that we
That's
wanted
ridiculous.
to do.
That sounds crazy.
It is crazy, because then we would only get 2 weeks off, and it became my job to try to figure out how to do all these things. And then we would shoot, and we would deliver 1.5 shows every single week. Put that in perspective, David Blaine, his last TV show, if I'm not mistaken, he had close to a year to be able to shoot that show. Usually at least 6 months they have for shooting one show. We were delivering 1.5 shows for A&E television every single week.
Let me ask you this question, see if you how slick you are. What was David Copperfield's best magic trick? I know.
I don't know. That's debatable depending who you
No.
are. Statue of Liberty, people would say,
No.
walking through the Great Wall of China. Oh, I know what you're going to say.
You know.
Yeah, getting that supermodel to
You
date
got
him,
it.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, banging Claudia's
It took me a
shit.
second. I had to
That's it.
read your mind
You
there
read
for a
my
second to
mind.
get that one. Yeah.
You read my mind, Wheels. I swear to God. Swear to God.
I think Penn Jillette said that many, many years ago, and they got him in trouble because they used to be friends. And he said something. They used to have this battle that would go back and forth, where Penn would say something about Copperfield, Copperfield would say something about Penn. But it was all this media thing. It was all for the media.
Yeah, yeah.
And Copperfield would call him up and say, you know what, I don't have a comeback for that. So Penn would give him a comeback. He'd say, oh, that's really good. And then Copperfield said that one time, and it was like crossing the line at that point.
That was a great bit.
Yeah, yeah.
That was a great bit. The to me, because I'm not necessarily, everybody's amazed by the magicians. It's funny, I was playing poker last night, and because one of the guys there doesn't mind that crappy TV show, America's Got Talent, which is the number one TV show, by the way. I look up, there's a magician on. I don't know if you probably, they had a magician kid on there yesterday that was doing some wacky stuff. But the only magician, I mean, even I've seen that Chris Angel by accident, but it's always, he's the kid that did the stuff in the street, right?
David Blaine. David Blaine did. Chris
it's
Angel
not
did
Chris
too.
Angel?
Chris Angel did too, but Chris Angel took it a step further. He did big illusions on the street too, not just regular magic. Blaine sort of set that genre, and he sort of set the genre of like you would actually see the reactions of the people, which was never really done before, and it was really innovative. So Blaine opened the doors for other magicians to be able to do that. Chris Angel came in, did that same thing, but on top of that, he took big illusions to the street as well.
But I was going to say, though, my favorites were always Gillette, Penn and Gillette. I love
Penn and Teller. Yeah.
Penn and Teller. Penn Gillette. There's a guy.
I know.
You know where I'm going.
Yeah.
There's a guy that I don't want going too much poker, but there's a guy I play poker with at a casino that I call Penn Gillette. He doesn't even know who Penn Gillette is.
Oh, no, does he look like him?
Yes.
Like a big
He
Sasquatch?
looks like him.
Yeah.
Guy
Penn,
I must have called this guy Penn Gillette for about 3 weeks. He goes, who's Penn Gillette? I go, don't worry about it, but you look like him. But, you know, I'll never forget, and Billy might not either, the cockroaches.
Oh, God, yeah,
David Letterman.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was one of their first very big shock things that they did, yeah. Letterman wasn't too happy about it, but hey, it got them a lot of publicity.
But Wheels, those guys, Penn and Teller, had a bit on Letterman where all of a sudden, out of a hat or something, about 500 cockroaches came crawling
All
out.
sizes, big ones, little ones, and they were all over the table, all over the studio, yeah.
Wow.
So, I mean, are you going to tell me that all this stuff that we see from all these cats, you know how they happened?
I know pretty much all of it, yeah.
Really?
It's been a long time since I've really seen anything that I even cared about that.
In other words, you were dying to know because you couldn't figure it out?
Yeah. I mean, there's some things that I go, okay, that can be done 10 different ways. And sometimes when it's on TV, you don't have all the facts, so you don't know exactly what method, but I can come up with methods for it. It's very rare that I see something that I go, I don't know how that's done. And I couldn't even tell you right now anything that's like that I could sit here and tell you straight up that I don't know how that's done.
At what point in your life did you realize you were good at this?
It just kind of sort of happened. I think the point was when I was working with the scientists, because they would put like a rotor under a bell jar on a needle, and a rotor jar, a glass jar over it, and they would say, "Can you make it move to the left?" And I would say, "Yeah, sure." I never said no to anything, and next thing you know, I had it moving to the left. Can you make it move to the right? Yes, I'll make it move to the right. So the scientists were coming up with all these different ways of things for me to do, and I would completely figure out ways to get around all the boundaries that they had set up and using trickery. So it was instinctive. I mean, when I was a young kid, I was abandoned, and so I sort of had to figure out ways to put food on the table and take care of my two brothers who were 1 year and 3 years old. So it's really very much been instinctive, and I thought about it. When did I really get started in magic? And I think it goes before I actually did anything magical. Even when I played soccer as a kid, I was always trying to come out with new
Football,
moves.
bro.
Football, yeah. I call it football, but nobody
Where
here
you
knows
from?
what we're talking about. I'm from England originally, but I left. My dad was an American GI. My mom was British. I just found out a year ago that I'm actually Irish for the first time. I said, "Mom, why are you living in Ireland now?" She said, "We're Irish." I go, "Really? You never told me." So I found that out. But yeah, so I used to play, and I used to always try to figure out ways outside the box to get the ball around people. And it was just always these things. I was always interested in unusual ways, thinking outside the box, doing math differently than anybody else. And I think that is just all part of that process, the magical process of figuring out how to do these things.
So James Randi, he's the cat that wants to give out the $1 million?
Randy's debunked many, many different things and many different psychics. He's offered $1 million to anybody that can do anything under proper scientific conditions. It was my job to work with psychics to come up with protocol with them and try to come up with some sort of testing that would work for them and work for us. And I tested a lot of psychics through the years. I did 5 of them on Nightline.
You were on Nightline, one of my favorite shows.
Yeah, it was on Nightline. It's online. You can look it up. And I worked with 5 different psychics on there and tested them. They all failed.
That's pretty embarrassing.
We used to get a lot of wacky people, too. Like, my poor manager, Tyrus, now has to deal with people calling whenever I'm on the air or something like that. And we get some crazy
Is that
things.
your manager?
Yes.
Oh, I
Tyrus is
thought
my
it was the
manager.
kid from the Fringe Festival.
No.
He's not.
No, he's not. He looks like a young kid, but yeah.
Well, to me, everybody's a kid, bro.
He's one of the smartest, most ethical human beings I know. So,
Really?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I trust him.
But
with
wait a
my
minute,
life.
you guys are from Vegas.
We are from Vegas.
Well, nobody's that smart and ethical from
Well,
Vegas.
we're not from Vegas originally. Let's put it that way. So yeah. But he's a good guy. I would get people that would say, I can make my mustache curls in the presence of ghosts. And I said, well, how are we going to test that? And they would say, well, you get a real ghost. And I'm like, really? I got to get a real ghost? If I can do that, that person gets $1 million. I had a guy who said to me, I can predict earthquake. I can stop earthquakes before they happen.
That's a good joke. I know that joke.
And no, this was true.
Go ahead.
This was a real person.
Go ahead.
And I said to him, how are you going to do that? And he said, well, you're going to get a genuine psychic. And I said, once again, if I could get a genuine psychic, they would get the million. But let's say, that they were a billionaire. They don't care about the money. They're willing to do it, and they're a genuine psychic, all right? I said, where do we go from there? He says, well, I'm going to make a prediction of when the earthquake's going to happen. Your genuine psychic will validate my prediction, and I will stop the earthquake before it happens.
That's hilarious.
And then Haiti happened right after that, and I never heard from him ever again. So, yeah.
But I thought what you were saying about stopping the earthquake is the same story as something that I can do. I throw tissues out of my car window. Do you know about that?
No, I do not.
Well, if you throw tissues out of your car window, it keeps the elephants away.
Oh, yes.
And I've been doing it in Rochester for 20 years, and there hasn't been an elephant here since.
Must be working, right?
It's the same thing, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
Isn't that basically that's the same rep? It's Banachek. You got to see this cat, but here's the other question real quick. I have no idea how it's possible to debunk a psychic.
Well,
in other words, if a psychic, whatever it is they're saying, and then Wheels, who's a believer, they said some stuff about his past.
Yep.
There you go. How the hell do they know that? How can you debunk that?
This is why I want Wheels to come to my show, okay? I may not be able to debunk the exact situation that happened to him because it's anecdotal at this point.
Right.
He has certain memories that he's
Right.
implanted over and over again. He sees things from a certain way, and he's going to believe that's exactly how it happened. What I can do is give him that same experience where now he may doubt that process and go, you know what? This guy is using trickery. He's doing the same things. Maybe, possibly, that wasn't real. There's no way I can actually debunk
Right.
that 100%, unless I was there and I see the trickery. I mean, I've caught people using trickery at different times. We've left cameras on. We see them bending silverware with their hands behind the scenes. The balance,
Really?
the balance bracelets that are out there that don't work. I help force them into a $56 million settlement, and I'm able to show how that works. Like I can show the debunking process of that to show that you're creating expectations that you meet those expectations, and therefore you know where you've got to go with it, and that makes it look like you're jumping higher. That makes it look like you can more flexible, like you can point and things like that. And I can show how you can actually make it work by showing you the process and the science behind it.
Okay, last thing, because I'm getting shoved. Banachek.
Yes, sir.
How'd you get that?
All right, so I got the name years ago because my real name was Steve Shaw at the
Right.
time. Did a lot of corporate gigs. Had a corporate guy get up, introduce me. Said, Steve, who? Next guy, I told the guy, hey, this is my name. The last guy forgot it. He says, I want to do my own introduction. He did his own introduction. And same thing happened. Steve, what was the last name again? It happened to me a third time, even though I told the guy. He said, yeah, I've got your name. And I thought, why is it happening? And for me, everything's from a psychological point. And I realized, Steve and Shaw are very common names. They don't have any really hard syllables. Well, Steve has a T, but not really. And it just kind of goes through the brain. So I wanted something that had a mnemonic, especially for the older guys. And there used to be a TV, and I wanted something that had two hard syllables. So George Papard was an insurance detective called Banachek, which was C-E-K. Mine is C-H-E-K. Like if you go to any of my social media, it's B-A-N-A-C-H-E-K, or Instagram is Mentalist_Banachek, but B-A-N-A-C-H-E-K. And I thought, these older guys will remember that show, and they'll make fun of me, which is okay, because at the end they're going to associate it with me. Or, if they don't know how to pronounce it, they have to ask me how to pronounce it, so they're thinking about the name. And I did it, it stuck, and I've been very happy with it ever since.
Banachek's Telepathy will be at the School of the Arts for a couple of weekends. Coming up is the Fringe Festival. It was really cool rapping with your brother Banachek.
Thank
Quite the cool dude. Coming up on the show, more crap next.
Millennials are soft.